There are a lot of game series out there that I would like to get into at some point. And I do mean a lot, like I probably will never get to play all of them in my lifetime a lot. Two of those game series are Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei. Especially the latter one is high on that list, because it sounds super weird, super interesting, and super cool. But considering the size of the series and my returning doubts if I would like the series enough to put myself through such large commitment, makes me hesitant to step in. A similar situation appears when it comes to Fire Emblem, but the key factor there is that as of right now, I want to preserve my hunger for strategy games when my beloved reboot of Advance Wars will finally be released. So, after some thinking, I asked myself, why choose between one of the two series to start with, if I can have both? And then it hit me. All I had to do was turn Shin Megami Tensei around. Literally. Making it Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is a game that actually at some point in my life made me consider buying a Wii U, as I absolutely fell in love with the trailer from back then. But in the current situation, the game supposedly is a crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei. So who knows, maybe the game offers the best of both worlds. Maybe something better and unique. Maybe it's a nice stepping stone for entering the other series. Or is there a dark reason why this game doesn't appear on any timeline of both series? Well, let's find out. Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE Encore takes place in modern-day Tokyo. We follow a boy named Itsuki Aoi helping his best childhood friend Tsubasa Oribe become the next big idol. A quest that is already very complicated, but after a turn of events made even more complicated. Entities called Mirages have been invading the city in secret, kidnapping countless of people. Tsubasa has escaped this fate once at a younger age, but almost falls victim to them again at her first audition. Itsuki, together with two friendly Mirages, manages to save her, and during their escape, Tsubasa and Itsuki bonded together with them, making them Mirage Masters. After this event, they join a talent agency that in secret fight these invading Mirages and try to put a stop to their devious plans. In other words, they play idol by day and hero by night. Initially, this game reminded me a lot of Sakura Wars, a game that also has a story that plays in on things like singing, acting, and overall performing arts. You also play as the main guy that keeps the group together and help each member with individual struggles, while at the same time lead them in the fight against demons from another dimension. However, in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, performing arts plays a much bigger role in every aspect. While you play as Itsuki, the main star of the show, quite literally, is Tsubasa and her journey to become a famous idol. It's a fairly simple and cliché story premise, and the writing definitely keeps that theme going. The narrative around Tsubasa is, however, good and strong, as every character, every conflict, and every element serves as a stepping stone in her journey. There is, however, one big downside to this hyper-focus on Tsubasa's journey. If I wanted more depth, be it about the enemies they face, the dimension they came from, the world itself, or anything really, I was left disappointed. Those elements are not directly connected or have a purpose to the journey, and therefore are just left behind or explained only on surface level. What is more unfortunate, however, is that the good narrative this hyper-focus creates is lost near the end of the game. Especially the last chapter felt like the writers suddenly realized, oh crap, this game needs an ending, and then just quickly slapped one on there with whatever they had. Which made it feel like it was happening in a vacuum, as it did not matter or was not really connected to the story that was told prior to that moment. I was able to look past the lack of depth for most of the time, as again, the narrative that is there is good. Its light-hearted and overwhelming upbeat feel-good theme does stand out a lot, and it's very enjoyable and even contagious. It was not able to carry or save the ending though, nor make me forget the potential that this game had, as in spare moments, in particular interactions with side characters, showed glimpses of what this game could have been if there was more depth. Overall, the story is fine. It's cliché, but it's alright. But what is more than alright is the incredible amount of charm this game has. From its very colorful and energetic art style to its implementation of music and performing arts as a whole, to small details and puns. It all contributed to create this amazing charm around performing arts. And I adore it. Not only softened it up the mistakes and flaws the story contains, but also made the overall experience just feel so good. At times, it felt like performing arts was the only thing that existed in this world, like it was its universal law of physics. Humans contain something called performa, and the dimension the mirages come from is called the idolosphere. Combat is fought in a place that I would only describe as a mix between a coliseum and a concert hall, and the many combat skills are terms or puns used in the showbiz world, like open audition, knock 'em dead, first on the scene, and so on. But what really nailed this game's charm is the music and the role it played. Songs with lyrics are sung by the voice actors themselves, which is just cool. But better yet, many of these songs are connected to a resolution of a conflict created by the story or the side quests, and the lyrics in those songs portray that. And afterwards, the song is released in-game, so to say, so you will encounter its instrumental version in the city during story moments and interactions, making it feel like the resolution of the song are not only part of the characters, but also the world itself. It's a very small thing, but it had huge impact, and I really liked it. Now, if you like the songs themselves, is a matter of taste, of course. There is not a lot of variety to be found here, as most of them are J-pop songs. There is an in-world equivalent of Vocaloid, which, as a Vocaloid fan myself, is very much appreciated. But that is where the variety more or less ends. From a story point of view, it makes sense, but from an experience point of view, it would have been nice to have more genres of music involved. Besides songs, you also unlock acting scenes in a similar way, and they are fine. I do wish they had a similar impact as the songs, but nonetheless, they do give a good laugh and fit in nicely and create a decent change of pace. Tokyo Mirage Sessions truly focuses on performing arts in all aspects, and that includes combat as well. At its core, the combat is a turn-based JRPG. Early combat, however, is fairly straightforward and even a bit boring. You have 3 active members and you take turns to attack the enemy. However, as the characters grow, be it by learning new skills or new members join the team, combat grows with them, eventually turning the combat instance into a complete live performance than an actual fight. This organic growth of the combat felt great, and it was fun to constantly indulge in, especially at late game. Every battle makes your team grow in one way or another. Slowly it changes from going from simply attacking in turns to consistently exploiting weaknesses to tuning your characters to one another to complement each other's strength and weaknesses to create long session combos. These session combos are cool, and just like with every other element in the game, there is so much charm involved with them. In these combos, characters get their moments to shine, but also interact between one another. When the combo is in full swing, the characters will call up who is next in line of the combo, or give each other compliments or do some kind of war cry. These session combos can take up some time, especially in late game when you have 8 to 9 people going in turn. But thankfully, once you have seen them enough, you can choose to speed them up. At later stages, you unlock duel arts, which are fun little moments between 2 characters, usually based on certain story progression, that not only deal massive damage, but also keeps your combo alive. And just like with the default session combos, these duel arts put certain relationships between characters into the spotlight, which is a nice touch. Though idols and actors do tend to sometimes be a little bit selfish and take the spotlight completely for themselves, and in combat that translates to uplift abilities. These trigger at random and basically interrupt the combat for a full-fledged live performance, which sounds annoying but actually is the cherry on top for all of the charm that is present in the game. At later stages, combat does lose its difficulty and can't depend on its feeling of progression and growth, as it comes to a halt once you reach a certain point. And while I would have loved to spend more time developing my characters and indulge in this charmed, packed combat system, I was relieved to see that there was no real endgame. At the end of the game, it all ended, and while I was more or less left starving for more combat, I felt mostly glad that the game ended before the combat became a boring chore. Now, to address the elephant in the room. At the beginning I mentioned this game was a crossover, but apart from one obvious element at the end, it didn't seem or feel like a crossover to me at all. The combat system does resemble a lot of combat systems from other Atlus games, but I do not count that as a direct crossover element. So I had to search what exactly made this game a crossover, and my conclusion is that the crossover elements are very limited. Most of it are costumes for characters and names the friendly Mirages have. So from my point of view, the crossover elements didn't really matter. To be honest, the most crossover thing about this game are the fans from both series leaving similar comments and reactions about this game. Maybe I'm in luck, maybe I'm in blissful ignorance, but to me Tokyo Mirage Sessions worked. Again, until the end, fine as a standalone thing, and honestly, I think we could and should treat it as such. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore is a very decent game. Its story is a very light-hearted journey of a girl that wants to be an idol. This journey heavily depended on cliché moments and stereotypical characters, which personally I didn't mind as much, as the story particularly makes up for it with a nice feel-good upbeat vibe and presentation. What did bother me was that everything more or less had to be taken at face value. While the world, characters and so on definitely had a design that offered room and could have benefited from more depth. The combat was an absolute joy to play. Progression feels very organic and every battle rewards you in some way or form that makes you stronger and more effective. At later stages the game does become easier, but thankfully the game ends at the right time. What made Tokyo Mirage Sessions stand out to me was its good usage and focus on performing arts and the incredible amount of charm it created around it. It are the best elements this game has to offer, and even though the overall game is not something unique or special, it did make me fall in love with it. Now, do I recommend this game? If you like the charm like me, then definitely yes, but it's a rough call when it comes to the rest. If you don't mind cliché and stereotypes and have no problem with taking things on face value and be bombed with J-pop songs, then sure, this game is right up your alley. But if not, then it's a hard sell. Maybe you want the JRPG elements that this game has to offer, or maybe it's intrigued you by what I told you. And if that is the case, I would still recommend it, but I would highly recommend to tread carefully when picking it up. And if you've played the game already, or just want something similar as this but in a different genre, then check out Sakura Wars. That might be something for you.